Part two, I don't like the younger people in this generation because they're not patient. That's what I'll name it. I really don't. You see what I'm saying? Because, like I was saying, I noticed that when I was sitting there trying to do that, what they call the, uh, let me see if I get, here's the box. This is, I was getting this from my mother. I mean, well, I shouldn't say, I wouldn't intend to put all that information in there like that about, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't intend to put that in there, but I was doing business. I put it like that. It's IMEI, IMEI number, IMEI number, and then they got another one called the code. They got a IC, yes, the IC, yeah, all of that. You know what I'm saying? They got the code and all that, the numbers and stuff on the boxes, on the back of the boxes when you purchase some stuff, the serial numbers and stuff when you're trying to register the phone. But I noticed that I was trying to put my email in the thing to get it registered. Now, don't get me wrong, some young people probably, if they see you struggling with something, they will help you, you know, to because they understand, okay, I can help you out. That might have been their way of saying, I'll help you out with that. But you can pretty much pick it up in your spirit when you ask questions. They going to like look at you if you have questions. Like if you have questions, you know how young people are. Say, well, man, what about this here? Huh? They may, huh? Just put it on the thing right there. Or just all you do is type. Look, listen to me. All you do is type that information in. You know, if they go to talking rowdy like that, they really saying, look, I don't have the body language is showing they don't have no patience for that. I can't stand a motherfucker like that. You see what I'm saying? Because, like I said in the first video, you got to realize that the people in the 50s, probably 60s, 70s, especially 70s and 80s, they didn't have the generation. Like, you know, I can work a remote, and my grandma can't even work a remote. Motherfucker, they didn't have no goddamn remotes when your ass was. They didn't have what you had back then. All we had was going to the damn TV, changing the channels, putting a damn hanger, trying to make a channel show by putting a hanger up there, like break a hanger off, like a wired hanger. And for those from the older generation, they know what I'm talking about. You had to break that hanger off just to put it on the antenna, just to make the TV straighten up and show good. But see, that's the generation that we came from. We didn't come from the generation in the early 2000s, 2000, because YouTube and all the internet stuff hit the market in 2005. We came up in the, like I came up in the 70s. My mother came up in the 50s. My grandmother came up in probably in the 40s. Cause see, my grandmother, she's still living today, and she's 100 years. Excuse me, I don't know why. Our grandmother is still living today, and she's 100 years old. She don't know how to work none of this stuff here. Why? The reason why she don't, and I'm telling this to the younger people, you need to start learning how to have patience with a lot of our people. They didn't have none of this stuff when they didn't have nothing about no tablet and all of this. They didn't have none of this shit when I was 4, 5, 6, a teenager, 18, 19, 20. When I was in my 20s, they didn't have nothing like this here yet. They didn't have this. This came out right when I got in my early, like close to 40. See, it was before. The internet came out in no, yeah, YouTube and stuff came out in 2005. In 2005, I was 30. I was in my like early 30s. They didn't have this here when I was in my teens and 20s. When I was 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. I didn't know what the hell this was. At no 12 and 13 and 14 years old. And I'm 51 now. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. In my 20s, they didn't have nothing like this in. So, of course, you're not going to know how to use it when you never had it. It's just like, that's why younger people need to be more patient. If you never read this book before, that's a book with somebody. If you never read a book like this before, how in the hell are you gonna get mad with me and have impatience with me? I don't know what's in the damn book. I never read it. So if I'm asking you about the book and the younger generation, y'all need to get this shit. Everybody ain't gonna know what the hell you know. I be wanting to tell them that so bad sometimes. I remember when I started working at Popeye. This was back in 2013. I didn't even know. I know how to do it now. Write tickets out for every pan of chicken that you season. You put a receipt on. You write out a receipt when you season the chicken, because the chicken can only keep 3 days. Just like if you make chicken batter can only keep for 3 days. When I was in Georgia, it couldn't keep over that. You see what I'm saying? So you had to put the day that you do it. No, not the day you do it, but you put the day after, because the day after gonna make 3 days. You ain't starting on the third day until the next day. Just like if I would make batter today, let's say like today is January Tuesday the 13th, right? So I would not put the 13th. I would put the 14th. I think I would put the 14th, the 15th, and then the 16th. That's 3 days. So it can only keep for 3 days. So the 16th, it has to be used up. Now, if they real busy, it will be used up. You see what I'm saying? But that's how long chicken can keep in a restaurant called Popeyes. Now, that's the way it is in Cobb County, Marietta. Now, I don't know how it is here in Louisiana and Hammond. The Hammond is where we in my hometown. We grew up in it. We was born in New Orleans, me and my sister. So that's where we originally from. But the younger generation should have patience with the older generation today, because you're not going to know how to do all that shit. A person that's 90, 80, 85 is not going to know anything about no stuff like this. And they don't even have the younger people don't even have the patience enough is to do that. Now, not all of them. It's just on a large majority. On a large majority, they don't know how to, they're not patient with it. It's not saying that they don't know how to do it. They just don't have the patience to sit up there. And that shit is aggravating. You see what I'm saying? When you going like, man, I hate going to this motherfucker. This motherfucker, you already know this motherfucker. He ain't gonna have no goddamn patience. So you got to talk fast with him, and you got to do all kind of shit. It's like you gotta speak their damn language, and you got to like, I don't know, man. It's a whole lot that comes with doing business with the younger generation. Most of them, not all of them. And I'm not sitting here saying all of them. I'm just saying most of them. And y'all know that shit too. A lot of you older people, the generation, y'all got grandkids, because I know a lot of y'all had told me that you don't know who I am. Say, oh yeah, my grandkids know how to work that stuff, but I don't have no. I had one woman to tell me that her children don't even show her how to do none of that. She said, "Oh, my children, they ain't got time. They don't want to show me how to do it." Or something like that. I said, I just told her it was sad. It was a lady just told me that. It's sad. I mean, why would you not want to have patience with show somebody something and take the time? And that's one of the fruits of the spirit according to the Bible. But a lot of them don't have that. They can develop it and ask the Most High for patience, but they are not willing to do that. They only have patience for what they want to have patience for. But you know what I'm saying? Well, how did they learn it? You see what I'm saying? How would you reverse it? How would you feel if you didn't know you was a slow learner and you couldn't get it and you wanted to get it and somebody acted that same way that you act toward the older people today? Let me know what y'all think in the comment section about this here, because in 2000 and so-called in 2026, that is that's an issue to this day. Now you have a very few that every now and then that will more gladly and willing to help you. You see what I'm saying? Show you the ropes and all that kind of stuff. And if you ask them too much, they gonna show or give off a vibe that you getting on their nerves and you need to learn how to do it yourself and all that type of stuff, which is fucked up. So that's what I really wanted to come on here and say. Why in the hell is it's like everything is all in this 2025, everything is all fad. It's like we done adopted a different culture now. Everybody done left the original to say, oh, I'm gonna keep up with this over here. Even though I know that the original thing is right. We know that the original thing, we know that the things that we're following now, we know that shit is not original, but we'll sit up there and argue with people for no damn reason and knowing damn well it's right. We just don't, you just want to just beat somebody in a debate, arguing with them or something, knowing that this shit is wrong and you want to continue to follow that way. But the younger people, look, man, y'all need to get out of that, man. Don't be walking around, because one day you're going to get old. And there might be, they may start increasing in knowledge and having a different thing in 2085, 2100, 2002, 2200, or whatever you want to call it. It can be a whole generation of your kids suffering because they don't have the knowledge. They may come up with something different, some knowledge you never heard of. They may catch it, and when you get older, then you're gonna be asking them questions. How did you do this, and what? How you do that? All we had was computers, but I don't know nothing about this, huh? And the younger generation, how would you like it if they treated you the way that you treated the generation in 2025 and 24? Think about that. That you got to start. The younger people need to start thinking about that shit, man. Yeah, you don't do no shit like that. That's wrong. It ain't right, because you know damn well like that it ain't right, because everybody didn't have the same thing. You know that my 3-year-old, like my 4-year-old or my 10-year-old knows a computer better than me. When I was coming up, I couldn't do that type of stuff because they didn't have it during our time. That's why. They got it in his day and he learned it within a couple of months. That's something that you didn't have. So of course you're not going to know how to do that. Of course he know how to do it because he's living in that generation to where he can get it, because they didn't have that type of knowledge in the 1840s, in the 1850s. They didn't have none of this. Over time, it grew and it came to this. They didn't have none of it. There was no such thing as no remote in the early 90s. You know what I mean? They didn't have no remotes in the early. Now we was just coming out of that. When I was 9, 10, 20, in my 20s and stuff, 9 years old and 10 years old, you had to go to the TV and change the channel itself. They didn't, well, no such thing as no remotes and all that kind of stuff. One no such thing as going and getting you a phone and uploading and putting minutes on it and talking on the streets. You had to use the phone where they got them holes in it like that. Old-fashioned phone. And the only time you got a phone call, they didn't have no voicemails or none of that, where you can leave a message. You just call and you just get the person. Now today it show you what time you call and the day you call and everything. They didn't have none of this when we was kids coming up. But now they can look. They didn't have no such thing as no ID callers where you can tell what time the person called. So the younger people, that's the reason why I'm saying it's good to be patient with the people that don't know nothing about technology, because they didn't have nothing about no call ID. Well, no such thing as no call ID. None of that back in the early 40s and the 50s and before the 50s and before the 60s and before the 40s and before the 18, like during the 1800s and stuff. Just think of the generation that was only 8 and 8. Man, it wasn't nowhere near this. They didn't have none of this shit that we look at now and that we talk about now. They didn't have none of that. So don't being impatient. They didn't have the shit. So when somebody asks you a question about it, well, you supposed to know. No, they don't, because they didn't have it in your generation, so they ain't gonna know. Because they come from the older generation. They 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. They didn't have this when they was 9, 10, 5, and 6. They didn't have the technology that they have today. So of course they're not going to know how to do it. So that's why I say I don't like younger people that are not patient. You know what I mean? Now, some of them, most of them are not. Some of them, it's a very few that'll work with you and understand. Oh, I get it. It's no problem. We'll help. You know what I'm saying? But somebody that's looking at you crazy and like, what? I told you one time, you don't get it. You're fucking lame for doing that shit. You know what I mean? They're not gonna get it like that. So it was just on my mind to speak about it. I said, I think this would be an interesting, because we live in, like I said, we live in a fast generation. Everything is fast. The microwave done is fast. When we was coming up back then, and from 65 people that's 80 years old, you know how you had to put that grilled cheese, that cheese on there and make a grilled cheese toast or whatever. You put that shit, turned that oven on, and that gas stove came on, and you put that damn the bread on and cheese in the bottom of the stove, and you close the stove, and that natural heat, gas heat, fire, cook your shit. And you know what time to take it in your mind. You didn't have none of these things that let you know what time it was going to come out of there. You just knew in your mind when it was going to be done. You opened that oven, and you took it up out, and you had that cheese toast. Yep. But the younger generation, that's what they had. But nowadays they got the fact, like in the early 40s and 50s and 60s, and during the time my grandmother's 100 years old, they didn't have, there was no such thing as going to the store or going to Walmart. Walmart didn't even exist until the early 90s. It was the early 1990 when the first Walmart in Hammond exists. That I know of. I was 16 when the first, like 15, 16, when I worked at the first Walmart here. They didn't have no cell phone. They didn't have nothing. You can go in there and you can buy a phone and you can do a loadable phone, YouTube and all that. Well, no such thing as that. That shit, we didn't know nothing about none of that. So of course we're not going to know anything about that. No, you're not going to know anything. So younger people, man, y'all need to get it together on that part. Well, for me, I'm going to tell you, if I have to, I am. Man, I don't know nothing about this shit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, man. I'll see y'all later. I'll see you in the next video. All right.